All right, so really excited for my guest today. I've got Adrian Balfour on the line. He's a experienced investor, has invested in some really well-known companies. Also has been an experienced entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, technology leader. He's best known as a founder and chairman of Envorso, a Seattle-based consulting firm specializing in transformation, AI, software-driven innovation. And since 2016, he's guided Envorso in partnering with major clients. So, and I think that's going to be really interesting to kind of talk about the scaling phase of, working with the likes of, Ariens, Cosworth, Cummins, Bose, BMW, Microsoft, and really focusing on enhancing the efficiency to drive growth through advanced technology. Previously, Adrian co-founded Pcubed, which is a global project management consultancy that grew to 1,000 consultants under his leadership. He served as CEO for nearly 2 decades before selling the firm in 2013. And earlier roles included work as an electronic engineer at France's Telecom Research Center and as a systems specialist at Ford Motor Company in London. Beyond tech, Balfour has played a pivotal role in the U.S. professional rugby industry. In 2017, co-founded Major League Rugby and launched the Seattle Seawolves, who won consecutive championships in 2018 and 2019. And his leadership has just really helped build a strong rugby community in the Pacific Northwest. He's also been an active investor, has backed more than a dozen companies focused on AI, including Empwr.AI. He also operates regenerative sheep farms in Pennsylvania. So that's pretty interesting. And in Ireland, producing sustainable wool products. That's really interesting. And it seems like that's some of the merch that's for the Seawolves as well. It makes sense because you got to stay warm, and why not do it with wool? And he's originally from County Fermanagh in Northern Ireland. So I was in Northern Ireland. I forgot the name of the town that we were in.
Okay.
But it'll come to me in a second. But anyways, just have a fond memory of being in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, it's a fun place. A little rainy, Joel, but it's a fun place to be.
It was rainy when I was there. So yeah, I can relate. But now it's bugging me what the city is. I'll bring it up during the episode. But anyways, in 2020, expanded Envorso's presence and is really opening a professional services center in Belfast. So excited to kind of go really deep on the ecosystem, tech, venture, where AI is headed. We just talked about, some of the headlines we're seeing today. But Adrian, tell me a little more about who Adrian is. Where did you start? What did you study? What did you think you wanted to become in your career, and how has that changed?
Yeah, I mean, life is not a straight line. So initially, I studied electronic engineering in Sheffield in England, and then in France at École Supérieure d'Ingénieur, which is in Caen in Normandy, and then did my master's, in Belfast, etc. Wanted to become a design engineer for Intel. That was my original goal. I wanted to do chip fabrication, get involved in that whole thing. If you were back in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, that was the technology at the time. Those things were going crazy. They were powering the PC revolution. So I wanted to get involved in that. I ended up working on cryptography over in France for a couple of years. And basically sort of think about it in these sort of terms, sort of like, security, cybersecurity work. Yeah. Back in the day, some of the early stage public key encryption systems, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got poached to go work for Ford in Germany, working on automation of production lines. So I worked in a system called inline vehicle sequencing, which essentially basically takes the download from the mainframe. So consumers go to a car company, they buy cars. On a Sunday night, that's uploaded, or it used to be uploaded to the mainframe Sunday night. Monday morning, the plant has to be ready to build stuff. So you take the download over the weekend, you basically categorize that into batches, and you send it down the various production lines for engines and for cars, basically. And then marry up. They have to marry up together, and the robots all have to be, working on the configuration that's coming down the production line at the time. multiple products come down a single production line. So I built the automation for that in Germany for a bit. Joined over to the world headquarters or to the European headquarters in London, and then resigned and set up Pcubed. I was about 27 when I did that. Didn't really know much about business, but I figured how difficult could it be? Yeah, I just built a global scheduling system for production lines for a major manufacturer. So I figured how difficult could running a company be?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, was I in for a surprise, So I set it up in Detroit, moved to Detroit, set it up in Detroit, and grew it in the first year to about 6 people.
Why did you choose Detroit? Was it just
Automotive.
strategically? Oh, automotive, yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
I
Yeah.
mean, I knew the automotive industry. Well, I'd been
Hmm.
there for like 3 or 4 years. I knew the manufacturing side, and then I knew some of the issues from product development into manufacturing, right? So
Hmm.
if you, like for example, there was a 2-liter dual overhead cam engine that the guys were building in PD, but when you tried to manufacture it, you couldn't actually attach the oil filter, you
Yeah.
know? Simple stuff, So I
Sure.
kind of got into sort of like managing complex projects from that perspective. I founded Pcubed, which was as a complex program management company, solving those sort of problems. And then, within sort of like, by the time I was like 30, 31 years old, I had 150 people working for me. So the company kind of scaled. We branched out to 17 offices in 4 continents. Basically, cash flow from operations. So we took no investor capital at all. It was all cash flow from operations, and I didn't have any money to put into it. So literally, it was, send your billing out on a Friday, get the payment, 2 weeks later, and then pay payroll. It was literally that sort of like dynamic. And then just growing and scaling the company across 4 continents. And I believe now the company is about 5,000 people in total. I exited in 2013, and then used some of that capital to deploy. I was very interested in the new sort of like Web 2.0, and also, looking at sort of like computer learning back in the day, and edge computing. And so I basically took those funds, and did some angel investing and early stage investing. Became a limited partner with a couple of different VC firms, some of them that you'll know, in Seattle and in San Francisco,
Hmm.
and was involved in due diligence exercises. My investing style was very much as an operator. Yeah, so I didn't do, a lot of guys would do 20 or 30 investments, the 50K to 100K style, put. I was more of a sort of like put in, a 6-figure sum, and then get involved on how to help the operations guys. Because I
Hmm.
actually know, having grown a company from scratch, from one person band, I know some of the challenges that people face. Yeah. So I wanted to help others set their companies up and
Hmm.
get involved in,
Absolutely.
whether it was supply chain work, whether it was marketing work, sales, people, culture, that sort of stuff.
So a couple things I want to unpack. So what advice would you have from the investor standpoint, along with being a founder, in terms of kind of navigating that exit, figuring out when is a good time,
Mhm.
um, to figure out it makes sense to kind of have this exit event? And obviously, there's so many different flavors of an exit. It could be an acqui-hire, it could be
Yeah.
a blend of shares and cash. And I always, note this reference to everybody. I have a mentor named Mark Ackler, pretty well known VC in Chicago, but he wrote a book called Exit Right,
Yeah.
and it really just has a lot of wisdom in there. I think he wrote it with I think his past book was with Brad Feld, but there was just a lot of nuggets in there in terms of just what you need to think about.
Mhm.
Even if you have like an earnout, what you need to think about in that situation. So would love to hear any advice, or especially learnings that you're allowed to share with, your exit. And it seems like you had some liquidity because you're able to reallocate some of that. But yeah, anything you're allowed to share about that would be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't come from much, I didn't have a lot of money to start with.
Hmm.
So, being able to do a couple of exits along the way has certainly
Hmm.
promoted my liquidity, and then being
Yeah.
able to do smart investing kind of helps
Hmm.
you accelerate on from there. Um, there's 2 sides of it. There's the actual physical transaction itself, and and the mechanics of that, and what the implications are for the entrepreneur coming from an entrepreneurial side.
Mhm.
And then also like when is the right time? Okay, so as a entrepreneur, you're naturally curious, you're naturally optimistic, so you always think you can continue to grow. Yeah. And the very moment that you don't grow, it's too late. Yeah. So if you go through a recession like we did in 2008, yeah, all sorts of things will come at you. Like in the 2008 recession, we got audited by the IRS and by different states because, in 2009 our revenue was lower than our revenue was in 2008. Go figure.
Mhm.
But the governments will audit you because they want their money
Yeah,
regardless.
they want the healthy tax payments that they're getting.
Yeah, so you do things like that, that you have to be aware of. If there's a recession coming,
Mhm.
you got to remember you're getting audited, that sort of thing. Um, but if the revenue dips, you've then got another 3 to 5 years before you can sell. Yeah, so you got
Mhm.
to keep that revenue, chugging and turning, and you got to have healthy 25-50% growth, as a real sign. Once you get into that, it's then about when is good for you. Yeah. Most entrepreneurs plow money back into the business. So if you've been doing it for 5 or 10 years, it's probably time to get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to scale to $1 billion company and you can take loans against your stock and all that sort of stuff. But if you're in there for 5 to 10 years, then and you're not getting that sort of financial reward, then get out. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of VC funds will use secondaries to kind of give some liquidity to those founders that were like living on ramen
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
beginning, and also just deliver some liquidity to their LPs. It's like, look, we got some darts on the board, we got some DPI
Yeah.
as a fund manager, but the use case also is just like it's great for the founder to finally eat because it's been like 10 years, and a lot of times they give them the nominal salary because they want to
Mhm.
like to your point, pile that back into the business.
Yes, if you're not IPOing and you're not getting a really big acquisition, then you need to try and
Hmm.
go out there and sell. But in
Yeah.
the 5 to 10 year period, that's kind of your sweet spot.
Hmm.
Make sure you get your revenue well north of 25% growth per year. And then you're really taking a look at, the people that tend to buy companies are people you already know. So the people who are your business partners, the people that are sort of like one stage removed from your business, those tend to be the best acquirers, because they know you, they understand you, and people buy people. Yeah,
Hmm.
so you got to really, put yourself forward as, enthusiastic, bright. You're not going to run away from the business. As soon as you get a check, you're going to be there to help guide and steer it. But you need to, take a look at your network, one stage removed, two stage removed, and really go after those particular people. Brokers can help. The VC company can help. But typically it's on you to make the work happen.
Hmm.
Everybody else will assist and provide advice, from, the peanut gallery, but it's on you to make that deal happen. That's
Sure.
really the key thing. Yeah.
One thing that I think is important also is just psychologically when an exit happens. So there's, I heard this the founder of Tiger Global speak, and he's shared this on several of his podcasts. But like a lot of times, his community, right, Tiger 21, it's these people that are. I think you have to be worth 10 million in
Right.
liquidity to be part of that group. But
Hmm.
a lot of those people they sold their company, so they came into some massive event
Sure.
and they just don't know what to do with the
Yeah.
rest of their life because they're just kind of that was kind of all they did for a living, right? That was their whole
Yeah.
life. When you're not doing work, you're thinking about working, right? So talk to me about kind of were
It's
you immediately ready to build something again, or did you take some time off? Or
I was going to retire and just be an investor.
hmm.
Yeah, I was going to
Sure.
manage investments. And what I found from the investment side is a lot of guys were passive, you
Hmm.
and I was much more. If I saw a problem, I wanted to jump in and fix it. Right.
Hmm.
So we had a company that was a security company that we eventually sold, but they had a very poor supply chain. That they were, they had a factory in Indonesia. Their supply chain wasn't that great. Their inventory management wasn't that great. Their warehousing was kind of crap. So getting involved in that to try and fix that was
Hmm.
so it's like if you see a problem, fix it. That's kind of my ethos. So I was a very bad, passive investor. Let's put it that way. But I got actively involved in all my investments, and they all tended to hit. So they all
Hmm.
were successful. Um, and I'd like to think I had some, I had some part in helping those guys be successful because I was able to roll my sleeves up and get involved. Going through that exercise, I'd retired, wanted to do investment, realized I was not a good passive investor. I was more an active investor. And then, it was like, you're not retired. You're doing this. So continue to do it for the people that you like and the people that you want to help and work with, but then do your own things, like set up some new companies and see where that goes. And the initial one I set up Envorso, which, as you correctly stated, basically helps legacy companies, adopt AI, machine learning, and the new technologies. And typically focusing on people that manufacture stuff. So complex businesses that typically ship they ship a thing, whether it's a brick or whether it's a car, they're shipping something. And over time, technology has happened to those people. Like even in Lego blocks, you're getting technology installed in Lego blocks now. So you can imagine the complexity in a car. Yeah.
Sure.
So, you have to stand up software development groups within those businesses that are functional as opposed to just systems integrators. Yeah. So you have to build your own software versus, just hire someone to do it for you, and that's a different mindset. So that was the genesis of that company. And then also I played rugby for about 16 years over the course of my life as a player. And I looked at the landscape here in the US and saw that soccer was becoming a thing. And I couldn't understand why no one had a go at trying to set up a professional rugby league. If soccer could do it, then the rugby guys could do it. So
Sure.
That was kind of a simple no-brainer type thing. And we got a bunch of guys together. We set up a professional league, and we've now been operating. We're going into our 9th professional season.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me, I guess, I guess a couple pieces of advice that I like from you. It's two parts. So like from the fund manager's perspective,
Right.
what should they think about? So we, as I mentioned earlier, we have an incubation program for emerging fund managers, and a lot of them are thinking through their fund manager strategy. So as fund managers are kind of developing their skill sets and kind of going out to build relationships with LPs, what's some advice you would give to them? And then also exited entrepreneurs, family offices, allocators, as they're kind of deciding between passive fund investing versus active direct investing, any pieces of wisdom or just observations on that front as well? We'll love both perspectives from you.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking at it from a fund manager perspective, it's like, how do you get in the deal flow? Okay, so where are the deals happening? Where are the entrepreneurs coming through? And I'll always go for the team. Yeah. Always go for something more than a PowerPoint. Always. Yeah. They've got to actually have proven they can deliver something. And they've got relationships with clients. They don't actually have to have landed a lot of clients, but they have to be in the game with clients.
Sure.
So I would make sure that, number one, the team of guys and gals that you're investing in are sharp, smart, totally motivated, will walk through walls for you. Yeah. Will walk through walls for themselves. Don't sleep. That sort of energy, high energy. They have to have a tech platform. They have to have something that has proven their capability of delivering. Too many entrepreneurs I see have got some really smart marketing type stuff. They're very articulate, but when you scratch below the surface, they've basically got some sticky tape and band-aids around some public code they've grabbed off GitHub or something like that. So you gotta do your technical due diligence to make sure they're actually worth it.
Sure.
And then they've got to be able to be in the game with some customers. So, whether it's Microsoft or whether it's Google or whether it's Target or Ford, some brand customers that are willing to give them a shot.
What about portfolio construction? So as fund managers are thinking about the term of their fund, the portfolio construction and their strategy, any observations you've seen recently or just comments about that?
Yeah, I would say portfolio construction, you want to take a look at getting really good families, number one, to fund. So family offices, I think, are becoming way more important than they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you get really good family offices so that your LPs are strong, and not going to be flaky and give you a hard time and all that sort of stuff. So make sure, number one, get your source funding right, get your family offices, because they are becoming way more influential than anyone else at this
Mm-hmm.
stage. Get your family offices right. Um, and then sort of like when you construct your portfolio, take a look at the different, you got to be able a bit of a sensei looking into the future. Like, what does 2028 look like?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at 2028, take a look at the different types and categories and invest in the categories that you're interested. Like, what will be the number one thing in 2028 in each of the 10 categories you want to go after? That's the thing. And then go seek, don't just wait for people to kind of give you stuff, but then go seek actively in the deal flow the best companies that are there. I always like to do investments, being a Seattle guy, with somebody in the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So I typically wouldn't do an investment that was purely Seattle based. It would be Seattle plus someone in the Bay Area. So you get a different perspective. And that's kind of where I would go. And I think getting outside of the bubble as well, like, a lot of companies will say, "Oh, I sell to other startups."
Sure.
I've seen that rotating debt. I've played that game before. I want to have real customers, that
Mm-hmm.
are industrials or retail or financial services. I want to have real customers that are touching
Mm-hmm.
that, not just I've got 6 startups that have got 5 guys using my thing.
They're
Yeah,
retainer clients essentially, right?
yeah, real. Get some brands in there and
Yeah.
people that really know their shit, and they're they're
Mm-hmm.
they're like impressed with what you have. Yeah.
That's a good point to bring up. So what have you learned in perfecting kind of corporate clients? I mean, because you've scaled to kind of some really large corporates as clients. So like as you're kind of thinking about the next evolution of your company, and that sometimes that's tied to a revenue milestone, sometimes there's private equity
Yeah.
strings attached to that, right?
Sure.
So what
Yeah.
what are some things you learned? I mean, kind of building those kind of roster people on your customer list.
I think, hey, when I was 27, it was
Hmm.
hard. Yeah. But I'm in my 50s, and all my friends are in their 50s. When I was 27, they were all in their 20s. So it's a hell of a lot easier today.
Sure.
Let me just put it that way.
Hmm.
But it's really just, being resilient and going after, with your taking your product into those big companies and not being
Hmm.
scared.
Yeah.
They're humans too. Um, the key thing is investing the time so that you understand their problem, right? So they're just humans trying to solve problems and get the thing done, but they work in a very large company. Their ecosystem is unique. Their challenges are somewhat unique, and you got to invest the time to understand where they're coming from so that you can be valuable to them. So the sales cycle is a
Hmm.
little longer, but pick your winners and invest the time. Make your product as relevant to those guys as possible. They get pitched a lot by a lot of people, so they're predisposed to say no.
Hmm.
But just because they say no doesn't mean to say they won't say yes. So they're predisposed to say no, and so they will keep on saying no, or they'll keep investigating your product to see if there's any hooks that turn them off. Make sure you don't have any negative hooks in there, and eventually they'll get themselves to a yes.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, a lot of these big corporate companies, I mean, like Ford and GM, I mean, they've got like 8 levels of leadership and approvals that
Oh, yeah.
probably have to even allow you to come into the office, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I think you're to your point, empathizing with that because that might be one of their problems, right? They may be frustrated that they're the big conglomerate that just moves too slow versus like some of these other fast moving
Well,
companies that
you
are
got a
more
good point
nimble.
there, Joel. Like,
Hmm.
recently, I'll take one of the Detroit three, maybe the one that's not as big as the other two in Detroit. Okay.
Hmm.
They have 900 AI projects they have to review and see if they can implement across the organization. Maybe 120 of those are real. Okay. So if you're coming in with a new AI product to those guys, you're one of 900. You got
Hmm.
to get yourself to one of 120, and then you got to get yourself to one of five. So that's the competitive landscape you got to do. So don't enter that game unless you're aggressive and you know how you
Hmm.
can win. So you got to get real aggressive and you got to push through the mix. that they can select you above all else. That's the important bit.
What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on pilots, like to kind of get in the door? And should you, do you think you're devaluing yourself if you just do free pilots? Or do you think sometimes free pilots helps to kind of get yourself in the door?
I hate free pilots. Yeah, because you're not valuing yourself,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
and if you don't value yourself, how can someone else value you? So
Yeah,
I just
it's a
hate
good
that
point.
stuff. Yeah, I mean it's you wanna basically invest at the time to make sure your product is specific to those guys,
Hmm.
and that they want to do it. Pilots are a great way to move forward, but pilots are also a good way for IT to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sometimes the best way to do it, like take a look at the way Smartsheet did their growth. They basically had business users, in the business pop up using their product. And then by the time IT became aware of it, it was pervasive and they couldn't kill it because it was pervasive.
Sure.
That's the way to do it. Get a couple of managers to use your stuff, get a couple of analysts to use your stuff, start getting it pervasive within the firm, do some enterprise level functions over the top of it so that people can kind of coordinate on it, and then you can't be killed. You're too big to be
Hmm.
killed. Like in Envorso, we actually have a sort of a lab where we incubate companies, so like an incubator type thing,
Hmm.
which is where the Empwr.AI came from. So that's a product that we basically looked at and said, hey, from a sort of product management, program management perspective, the future of work is going to be hybrid.
Hmm.
Okay. So the future of work's hybrid. You're going to have bots and you're going to have humans working side by side. Is there a tool out there that kind of can coordinate both seamlessly so that the manager can get work done? Maybe he's got 5 employees and 10 bots. Okay. How do you manage that from a sort of project management perspective? So we created Empwr.AI to kind of do that function and solve that problem, which we think is a really killer 2028 scenario.
I love that. Well, fun topic that I want to move on to is
Mhm.
look, I remember the town that we went to. Is I DM'd you. It's Kilkeel, Ireland.
Kill, kill. Okay,
And
fishing
then
village.
and
Yeah.
then we went to I sent you the link here. We went to this alpaca farm and we just had an amazing time with our kids.
That's sweet.
And essentially, their fur is pretty soft, right? So
Yeah,
when you kind of talked about the woolery that you formed, and I
sure.
love like that, that's kind of it's essentially, so it sounds like I guess, did you create a brand around that? Did you create like actual
You,
sweaters and swag, or are you just actually the woolery that kind of processes the wool, and like
oh no,
other partners like Patagonia or somebody like would use the wool to kind of create their sweaters? Because alpaca wool is pretty soft too.
it's pretty soft too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went for merino wool.
Hmm.
So the answer to your question is hell no, vertical integration the whole way. And also you're right, vertical integration into rugby, hats, sweaters, scarves, people love it.
I love
Um,
that.
but we're really going for the outdoor brand of people that want to have wool next to their skin because it's
Hmm.
hygroscopic, it's antibacterial.
Okay.
It doesn't stink. If you wear
Hmm.
it on a hike, you take it off, it's not going to stink because it's got that antimicrobial thing to it. And with the merino, your micron count is sub 20. Ours is about 15.7.
Hmm.
So you're looking at something that's kind of silky in nature. I'm wearing a t-shirt made of wool right now, for example, right?
I
So you
love
want
that.
that sort of stuff next to your skin.
Hmm.
So we basically bought a farm, bought a couple of farms in Ireland and over here in Pennsylvania, scaled up, um, figured out the supply chain, which is really tricky in the wool business. There's really not a lot of wool in the US, which kind of shocked me at the time.
Hmm.
Um, we decided, okay, let's go for sustainable farm practices, carbon capture, sustainable
Hmm.
practices, not sort of bulk feed type stuff, but really get the animals out there in the fields. Um, Make sure it's sustainable, get that going, and then do the shearing. And then, we currently use a company in Texas to then wash the wool,
Okay.
which is organic. And then we spin it up in Vermont at the moment or Michigan. Um,
Hmm.
and then we actually manufacture the clothing in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Using some
Interesting.
yeah, we use state-of-the-art machines in Brooklyn to kind of
Hmm.
manufacture the thing, and then we sell it on our website. And
Interesting.
also,
So the website is Fern Hall Estate. Is
yeah,
that
you got it.
okay?
Yeah.
Yep. So you can go there. Let me just pull this up. Look at some of the swag here.
Yeah, you go there and take a look.
Um,
So we've been doing it for about 5 years. So
mhm.
getting the sheep up to the numbers you need, like you need a couple of hundred, and maybe even 1,000 plus. So
Yeah.
getting the numbers up gives you, and they breed once a year, so it takes a
Mhm.
little bit of time, right? So you get the numbers
I
up,
love
and
the
then
brand too, and quality is. And who comes
yeah,
up with the designs? Do you have like a? Do you come up with all the designs, or do you have a partner that gives different styles and designs and stuff like that?
I have a partner who also happens to be my boss in life, my
Okay,
wife.
sure.
Um, so she was a finance director at Microsoft back in the day,
Hmm.
which is when we met. And then she moved over into product marketing for the Microsoft embedded business and also their mobility business. So she was
Hmm.
involved. She was a professional for about 20 years in finance and marketing.
Hmm.
So then she's been kind of leading like the logo and the brand and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, she leads
that's
that.
great.
She would tell you I'm terrible at naming companies. I mean, Pcubed, Envorso, she'd say I'm terrible at it, but what the hell,
It
So
seemed
she's
like you
been
did okay. So.
yeah, she's been doing that. So we have a bunch of employees that work on that. We started out figuring out the supply chain is
Hmm.
tricky. Getting that working, and then producing high quality produce is the key.
And
Um,
it's just considered one of your incubated companies because this is kind of something that it's a new spin out.
Yeah. Yeah, this
And
is
it,
this is this is an incubator. It's not in Envorso. This is something
mhm,
that we've kind of just done ourselves, like,
yeah.
same as we founded Major League Rugby, same as
Hmm.
we founded Envorso. This is another company that we founded, and we're charging on and moving forward on. And
Hmm.
our vision is this will be, a premier brand for wool products that are next to your skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't itch, don't scratch. They're
Hmm.
healthy, and therefore outdoors people. So whether you're a sports guy, on a field playing rugby, or you're hiking, or you're going skiing, having that sort of like brand next to your clothing, next to your skin will feel comfortable, and
Hmm.
you won't go into the bar afterwards and stink like everyone want to kick you out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it looks like this is also a real estate. I mean, you guys have an estate as well, so people
Oh
can.
yeah.
So it's kind of the whole experience tied together, right? You got the
Yeah.
estate, and you can visit the farm, and then it's kind of the brand is kind of tied to that real
The
estate,
Yeah, you
essentially,
you
right?
you gotta have the if you're gonna it's not just a clothing brand,
Yeah.
right? So it's a clothing brand where you can
Hmm.
trace your product to the back of a particular sheep. So you
Yeah.
can
I love
trace it
that.
right back to that sheep. Yeah. And you
Hmm.
can come visit the sheep. Yeah.
Hmm.
So to create that sort of environment and make it friendly for
Hmm.
people, either producers, people in the supply chain, or just consumers. Uh, we purchased the Johnson and Johnson family estates. So
Hmm.
if you look at the J&J company, their historical estate was in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And so we purchased that. We
Hmm.
spent a couple of years renovating it to bring it back to life.
Hmm.
And we have the benefit that in the 1800s and early 1900s, that actually was a sheep farm. Um, they've since turned it into a golf course, so we had to convert it back to a sheep farm, which the neighbors around us kind of call me the golf killer.
Hmm.
I'm fine with that. That's okay. But it's a kind of a cool brand, right? So it's
Yeah.
so you can come to the former Johnson Johnson estate. It's a building that was built in 1916.
Hmm.
The walls are like 5 feet thick with stone. It's a grand old mansion, kind of a
Hmm.
European style mansion, like
Yeah.
castle type thing. And you get out there, you can see and interact with the sheep, and you can buy some wool on the way. And
Yeah,
we
and
have
you're in
a
PA, so you're just a couple hours away. It's great for New Yorkers to kind of get a little weekend away. So
Yeah, New York, Boston, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, even DC, down as far as
yeah.
DC, Philly and DC come up. We
Hmm.
get people, and they can rent the building if you want to, do like a retreat or whatever. You can kind of
Hmm.
rent the building and have 20 or 30 of your closest friends, in
Yeah.
proximity, and do the full, live farm interaction type thing. So
Yeah.
that's a cool
That's
little
that's
brand.
that's amazing. Yeah, that you kind of built that whole ecosystem. It's essentially an entire experiential ecosystem with the brand. I got to ask you. So what? I mean, you really took it to the next level, Adrian. You're just like, look, it can't be that hard, right? It seems like
Yeah.
you've done necessary step in your life. Because I agree. I mean, things, if you really think about it, everything's hard, right? It's hard to, like marriage is hard. It's hard to raise children. Everything is kind of difficult. But when
Yeah.
you actually realize that if you just do it and you kind of have a good attitude about it,
Yeah.
everything is figure outable. But with different business models, there's different challenges. There's different learnings that you didn't think about. Like, hey, I didn't know that I'd probably get audited after the recession. But what are
Yeah.
some of the biggest things that you learned building a major league rugby team, and then also just kind of the complexities of essentially managing real estate, event space, and a farm and an apparel brand all at the same?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, it's where your passion is, right? So for
mhm,
me, I'm a tech guy, therefore Envorso helping change big industrials to become tech first.
mhm,
That kind of makes sense. Doing AI startups,
mhm,
incubating them, launching them, getting funding for them. We secured funding for Empwr, and they're now fully launched and off and running. Um, you know, um, then getting involved, that was my tech side. I played rugby for 16 years, so I'm really into
mhm.
it. So, do what you're into, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Then you
yeah,
don't
and
feel
then
like you're working.
yeah, you don't feel like you're
Yeah.
working, and you're into it. You're driving it. You're growing it. You get investors involved. There's maybe 50 investors across all the teams now. There's probably close on $500 million invested in rugby in North America
Mhm,
over the past 8 or 9 years. We have the World Cup coming in 2031. Men's in 2031, women's in 33, and people
mhm.
don't realize that the Rugby World Cup is the third largest sporting event in the world. Yeah, it's
Sure.
bigger than the Super Bowl. Yeah,
Mhm,
so people don't realize that sort of stuff. So basically going and leaning into that, and then there's a series of micro decisions that you got to do, which I
mhm.
will put down to just work hard. You're going to get challenges, as you said.
Yeah.
Nothing's free in life, right? Your wife, your kids, etc. So, just work hard and work through those challenges and make smart
Mhm,
decisions. And the same goes for the experiential led wool products on the Few, yeah, Fern Hall.
yeah.
Again, it's my passion. I grew up on a farm,
Mhm,
yeah. So it's a passion. So I've leaned heavily into the three things that I
mhm.
really love. Yeah. And I do that, and it becomes it's not working. It's just kind of fun. The difficulty for me though is context shifting. I don't know if you
Sure.
found this, Joel, but you're spinning multiple plates. Like so you got three basic big things, and within
Mhm,
those big things, there's mini plates that are spinning like crazy. And so shifting from one lane to the other lane is
mhm.
kind of tricky. And
Yeah.
that is a skill that you got to train yourself to do. Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
don't be scared.
sometimes that could be a challenge. I'm okay at context shifting. I think the challenge that you most likely have and most other people is really just time management, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
prioritization. So a lot of times you want to be available and support people, but you also want to manage priorities and manage
Yeah,
time. But as long as you're doing what you enjoy and you got the right people helping you, then your time is infinite because you can kind of duplicate yourself and kind of,
you can get leverage on time. Like if you
yeah.
get the right people, like
Hmm.
on a startup, going from 1 to 2 is huge. Going
Hmm.
from 4 to 5 is huge.
Yeah.
Going from 24 to 25 is huge, and going 99 to 100. Those are the
Hmm.
sort of inflection points that you look at within a business, and
Yeah.
getting those right people, spend the time to get the right people. If you
Hmm.
if you get the wrong people, I think it was Napoleon who said, an energetic idiot should be shot. Yeah, they will destroy your business.
Sure. Hmm.
So you got to make sure you get the right type of people and go for it in the right way. So, and
Yeah.
time management is critical. I look at it and go every single day. At the end of the previous day, I write down
Hmm.
sort of 5 things I want to get done the next day.
I love that.
And if I get them done by lunchtime, then I'm going to go
Hmm.
skiing. Yeah.
Sure.
If if I don't get them done till 11 o'clock at night, then I'm working till 11 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
I want those 5 things done. Knock them out the door, get them done,
Yeah.
and then move on to the next ones. Don't let things drag. Get
Yeah.
things done. Push through. Push yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's very timely. So Pharrell Williams, I think he spoke at the Grammys,
Okay.
I think 2 days ago, and his speech, he was just like, "Look, never stop working. If you do what you love every day, you'll get paid for free, essentially, right? Because
Yeah.
you're getting customers, and they're helping you, kind of build something great." And you're supporting them, but it's like what you really love. So essentially,
Yeah.
you're getting paid to do what you enjoy doing. So
Yeah.
because
I,
a lot of people go through
Mhm.
life doing things that they don't actually love, because maybe they feel that they have to. And
and
that's a challenge.
and don't do that. Just don't
Hmm.
do that. You know, if I
Yep.
if I went back to like my 27-year-old self, I basically said I'm going to set a company up,
Hmm.
and then I'm going to sell it in 3 years. Well, 3 years in, there was 100 people, and I was having a ton of fun. You know,
Hmm.
I was a kid from Ireland that was living in Detroit, and I was setting offices up in New York and San Francisco and Seattle and Texas, and I had an office in Germany and an office in France, an office in London. Like, I'm having fun. Why the
Yeah.
hell would I sell this thing? And then eventually, it gets big enough where, it's like, I had never ran a 3,000 person company. So it gets big enough that it becomes complicated and you go like,
Hmm.
"Oh, but then I'm just going to sell it." And you do that, and then you take the lessons learned and you apply it into the next one and the
Hmm.
next one and the next one. And you just get better and better, and you fine tune your skills. That's how the game works. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's you just kind of move from one to the other and just keep charging. That's important. Never
Yeah,
give
I
up.
mean, I think you had a different situation because you had an exit. I've also, I shared this with my team a couple months ago, but like there was a private equity backed CEO. He was on the team before they were private equity backed, and
Uh-huh.
I think the levers that he was pulling to scale and the way that he was running the company was expected to be done differently once he took on some private equity
Oh yeah.
revenue.
Hmm.
And the lesson from that is, a CEO that initially ran the company may not be the right fit for like a private equity backed CEO.
Yeah.
That's kind of maybe, and you may want to get somebody that's gone through that process already that kind of knows how to play that game. But sometimes, I mean, and we've seen this already in early stage companies that go public. A lot of times, the founder's not in the picture anymore.
No. You
And
move
and
into the
there's
CTO role, those
Mhm.
types of things.
Yeah.
The skill set that goes 0 to 1, I call it like
Hmm.
0 to 1 versus 1 to 100. The
Yeah.
skill set to go 1 to 100 is different than 0 to 1.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
I've been lucky in my life. I've been able to do both.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which is a pretty transformative skill set to develop. But most people don't do that.
Hmm.
It's a hard thing to do. And I think, for me, it was from sort of 2013 to 2017 when I was working with VCs. I was working with some of the large VCs as an LP, working on due diligence, etc. That kind of helped educate me, because it is a totally different skill set. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Adrian, I really appreciate this. This was
Cool.
amazing. Really learned a lot. What I usually do at the end of these episodes is
Mhm.
I'll just ask for one piece of wisdom. It could be from a mentor, it could be from an old friend, from like
Mhm.
one of your 27-year-old friends that are now in their 50s,
Yeah.
or it
Uh-huh.
could just be someone that you look up to. So just whatever you want to share with us as just one piece of advice or wisdom.
Don't give up.
Hmm.
Just don't give up. I mean, and always the first step is the hardest.
Hmm.
Once you make that first step, everything else becomes easier.
Sure.
And you just got to keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah.
That was taught to me a long time ago, by a French guy, back in the day, and he was right. Don't ever give up.
Hmm. Well, Adrian, thank you so much. Congrats on all the things that you've built and are continuing to build. And
Sure.
I actually I'm on the Airbnb page because we always look at places to get away
Oh,
on the
cool.
weekend. So it might be kind of a fun experience. So maybe you'll see me on the farm at some
I
point.
look forward to hosting you. I think you'd love it. I think you'd love
Yeah.
it. We have
Yeah, I'm in New York
horses.
City, so a couple hours away. So it looks
Oh,
looks kind
cool.
of
We,
cool.
we have horses, we have pigs, we have chickens, fresh farm eggs. It's a fun place to be. You should come
Amazing.
up. Come on
Yeah.
up.
Well,
I'll host you there.
amazing. We'll love that.
We'll have coffee and a beer.
I love
Okay?
that. Well, thank you so much, Adrian. This is amazing.
Cool.
And have a great rest of the week, everybody.
Okay.
All
All the
right.
best, guys.
Take
Bye
care.
now.
Bye.